there folks, welcome back to another video from GDI. Today this one's about the T25AT. Since the last video I put up was about the 36 Jackson, why not talk about this one next? And this is really one of those videos where I really want to show my garage first, because there's a very specific reason why I play this tank the way I do and why I'm choosing this tank over the T25-2. So let's get right into it. First, alright, first I want to talk about how I play this tank and how I set it up, and then I'll get into why I choose this over the T25-2. So, right off the bat, I am not going for the top tracks, and I am not getting the top gun. I did get the top gun, but I'm not going to use it. I'm using the second gun on it. So, oops. So let's look at the guns for a second. You have a selection of 3 guns, and these are the 3. So the difference between the stock gun is the one that you get on the Jackson and the Hellcat. The gun after that is the gun that you get on the T25-2 and the T25AT. This gun, on the other hand, is only available on the T25AT. And then obviously subsequent tanks, but as far as the tier 7s go, the T25-2 does not get this gun. But this is the gun that I use, so let's go away with a stock gun, because we don't need to see that. So 170 millimeters of penetration, 240 alpha damage, 0.35 accuracy, 8.22 rounds a minute, 1.7 second aiming time. I really feel that this gun is sufficient to go through this entire grind. As you can see, I have all of the top equipment on this, minus the top gun, modules rather. I have all my equipment on the tank, I have a full ammo loadout, and I have all my consumables on the tank, and I am still under the weight limit, so I don't need the top tracks, which are here. So, we can see here there's no, let's bring them up actually. There is no difference in traverse between the 2 tracks. So really what you're looking at is the weight limit that you're looking at. So the only reason that you want to get the tracks on this tank is for the top gun, because the top gun won't fit the weight limit. We can see here there's a 350 kilogram weight limit, which clearly I would not make. So I can't put the top gun on it unless I get the tracks. And basically what it comes down to is whether or not you want to keep this tank after you get the T28 unlocked. And I thought about it, and I don't. This is a good tank, don't get me wrong, it's a phenomenal machine. It's just not good enough for me to want to keep it. You do have higher DPM with the top gun. These are things to keep in mind, but you're losing a little bit of accuracy, and your rate of fire is going to go down a little bit, but the DPM is higher, your penetration is higher, your alpha damage is higher. So these are all things to keep in mind. So the top gun I do think is better. I'm just keeping this middle gun because I don't think this tank is worth keeping. But, you know, to each their own. If you do want to keep this tank, I fully recommend you get the upgraded gun. The accuracy difference, the accuracy loss, is not really enough for me to think that you still couldn't snipe in this tank. But the way that I do play this tank, I like to play it at range, the same as the Jackson, because it has the same accuracy. And I don't think I would play it too differently with the 0.38 accuracy, but I choose not to because, as I said, I'm not going to keep this tank after I get the T28. It is a good tank, just not worth keeping, in my opinion. So while I'm talking about the guns, I want to ask this question. Imagine that you could get, we all know what the gun on the Super Pershing is like. Now imagine that you can get that gun, instead of being a tier 8, you can get it at tier 7 and have it be more accurate with a higher rate of fire. Here are the 2 guns side by side, and really what I want to point out here is that you have a better gun at tier 7 than the Super Pershing does at tier 8. And right through here, it's going to be the same penetration, same alpha damage, AP, APCR, and HE. But what you're looking at is the higher rate of fire and a better accuracy, better aim time. So already a better gun at tier 7 than the Super Pershing gets at tier 8. Um, and now you're shooting at tier 5 tanks as well, which the Super Pershing doesn't get to shoot at with its gun. So easily, this is just more than enough. 170 millimeters of penetration, more than enough. So I think that this second gun is completely sufficient to grind through this tank if you don't want to get the top gun. And obviously, at some point, you will have to research it through the T28. But if you don't want to grind out the extra experience for the tracks, which I don't want to, because as I said, I don't want to keep this tank, so I just want all my experience to go towards the T28, then just get the research the top gun and then just keep going. Unlock the T28, and then on the T28, now you have the second gun. Makes the grind a little bit more bearable. And I do want to actually go back into the tech tree for a second. We saw that it was also for the T25 too, but it doesn't share the same statistics for this middle gun. The T25-2 does not get this top gun. So, I mean, if you do want to get this gun, then this is irrelevant. But if you do want to use this gun as I am, what you're actually looking at is the T25-2 gets 0.36 accuracy. The T25-2 gets, I believe, 7.79. We can check all this right now, actually. T25AT, 8.22 rounds a minute. 0.35 accuracy, 1.7 second aim time, which the T25-2 gets 2. Here we go. Okay, so the T25-2 gets 7.79 rounds a minute and 0.36 accuracy. So you're suffering here at this. I mean, you're forced into this middle gun on the T25-2, where I'm choosing to use this middle gun on the T25AT. And even at that note, you're forced into this gun, but it's also worse than the gun that I'm choosing to use on the T25AT. Not by much, but it's enough to point it out that this is a reason why I choose not to go down this line. You're going to be doing worse all the way down the line, and it may not be enough for you to notice every match, but it's going to be enough where grinding down this entire line all the way down, eventually you're going to start to notice it, which it's something to keep in mind. So these guns, as I mentioned in my previous Jackson video, this is a common theme all the way down the line. And you don't really start to see an even trade-off until you get to these two tanks. I can't speak to these two as much as I can to these two, but the trade-off is about even on these two. But for these four, it's going to be an unfair trade-off. These two are clearly better. And I'm fairly certain that the T110E3 is better than the T110E4, but I don't want to preemptively judge that. I have to do a little bit more research on the two of those tanks before I can say one is better than the other. But I will say that these four rather, are unfairly matched. These two are so much better. These two are a little bit even. I guess getting a little bit ahead of myself. The T95 is much, much slower. It's more accurate with higher rate of fire. But the T30 is more mobile, and you can play it like the T34 and get hull down and get closer up to your enemy than the T95 can. So these are the thing, and it's got a better traverse, obviously. But as far as these four, as I'm mentioning over and over and over again, that this is going to be a better tank than the T25-2. And I'm going to compare them, as I go down this line, I'm going to compare side by side. I'm not going to say, obviously I keep saying I think this line is better in general. But I'm not going to say the T25AT, compare it, crisscross or whatnot. I'm going to say like this. And as I mentioned before, the Jackson and the Hellcat, not a whole lot of difference in there. And I believe in some cases the Hellcat would be better. Actually, maybe in most cases the Hellcat would be better. But as I said, I'm not grinding to a tier 6 tank. I'm grinding to a tier 10 tank, which is the reason why I chose the Jackson over the Hellcat. So now let's get into crew skills. We have, for this tank, I took this crew out of another tank. Obviously, Brothers in Arms is always first. You always want Deadeye, you always want Safe Stowage, you always want 6 cent. And then being a tank destroyer, I'm training up camo. So that on top of the camo net really makes this thing hard to detect, and I'm going to show that off a little bit here. Always, vents are always a good idea. On top of Brothers in Arms, increases the crew efficiency on each crew member. So always a good idea to do that. Always a good idea to fit a gun rammer to increase that rate of fire so you can increase your DPM. Stock consumables, don't see any reason to not use stock. As far as my ammo loadout, I do carry a little bit of APCR because I'm not using the top gun. So when you get into those tier 9 matches, it's always nice to have a couple of APCR rounds to put into tanks. This is average 258 millimeters of penetration, so it's always nice to have that extra. I always keep a little bit of HE. You never know when you're going to need it. If you think you can knock out a module on a tank by shooting at its gun, or shooting at a tank's gun, or possibly you get a tank like maybe you're shooting at a Hellcat. It's one of the things I mentioned before. The Hellcat has such weak armor. This has, I believe it's 45 millimeters of penetration average, which is more than enough to go straight through the front of a Hellcat. So it's always nice to have that kind of extra, DPM. You're looking at 320 average damage over your 240 here. So it's always nice to have that extra if you know you can put it through. So that's why I carry the extra HE rounds. It's always been a question in my other videos why I do that. And that's why, is because if I want to knock out equipment or I want to shoot at weakly armored tanks. I know a lot of people tend to carry maybe 1 round HE, but for me that's not enough. I mean, there's plenty of AP and APCR rounds here that I won't go through all of these in a match. Maybe the APCR if I'm in a tier 9 match. But HE, there's no reason why I can't carry enough to put through a couple the sides or rear of a couple weak armored tanks. So that's why I do that. But I think I've gone through about everything else. So, let's get into a match. Here we go on our first match.
Let's go.
This one is on Morovenka. It's a tier 8 match. Pretty evenly matched. We have 1 extra tier 7 than the enemy team does, but more or less we're evenly matched up. No reason why we should think that one team will do better than the other at this point. I mean, other than, win percentages and WN7 and whatnot. Which, to be honest, I don't remember who had the better matchup. I mean, if you really care, I have the replay stored. You can always look it up. But that's one of the things, if you notice in all my videos, I do have XVM rather, but I don't use it in replays because it's not necessary in a replay. It's necessary in game because it helps me determine who to shoot at, who to work with on my team, and all this stuff. This KV-13, I do remember him. He was a very new player, and it's no fault of him. Everybody learns at some point. Nobody comes into the game being just uber pro. I mean, maybe if you're a virgin, I guess. I don't know. But, it's no fault to him. He just went straight across the middle, which everybody learns. But it doesn't mean I'm not going to shoot at him for it. I want my damage. If you notice, everybody on the team went left here. The left side of the map. Somebody's bitching. But it's not necessarily a bad thing, especially in a pub match. You don't want to really split your forces. In a pub match, especially because now you have all the tanks on the team. Basically, when a tank shows up on the map, an enemy tank, everybody's guns turns and shoots at them if they're in range. And here we have most of our tanks within range of whoever's being spotted, which is very beneficial for a pub match. So I'm watching the tanks to my right, but I'm not turning because I don't think I have a shot. And a T29 on his side. Yes, sir. You notice here, I do bounce off the front of the T29, and that's a very common reoccurrence. The T29 doesn't have very great armor. It's, the same sort of deal as the T32, the T30, the T34. The T29 is no different in that it has weak hull armor, but it's sloped enough and with enough armor that my 170 millimeters of penetration isn't enough. So anyway, I turned this Type 59 because our T25AT is in trouble. So I save his ass. And now I'm up to 1200 damage. And our T25-2 thanks me. You are welcome, sir. And I'm going to take another shot at this. That looked like it went high, so maybe if I'm lucky that went into his commander's cupola, but not likely that it went through. It's mainly just as suppression that I shoot at tanks that I know I can't penetrate. I'm going to speed this up a little bit here because it starts to get a little boring here. And the reason for that is that, you know, I'm a Tier 7 tank destroyer in a Tier 8 match. Moreover than that, I'm a Tier 7 tank destroyer that doesn't really have phenomenal armor. And it's sloped alright, and it has alright armor, but I've noticed more than enough Tier 7 tank destroyers, and like, for example, the T29, I know can get straight through this with no problem. So it's not a tank that I want to go charging up the middle for, or with, rather. So in a match like this, I'm trying to basically play on what everybody else is doing, try to find myself a spot where I know I can help everybody else without suiciding. So I tried to get in that bush because I thought maybe if they came from the right side, I'd be able to shoot down the 1-2 line and the JK line at the same time. But I can see they're starting to push up here, so I want to be up here to support them. Unfortunately, I can't do it. I have no tanks to shoot at. So now we have two tanks coming around our right side. Our T25-2, who's alone, which I gotta be honest, I don't know why he was out there, is now gone. I'm gonna slow it back down. You know, if you see every tank on the team go to one side of the map, don't go to the other side, because you are alone, and it's basically as good as suiciding. Because assuming the enemy team splits up evenly, now you're gonna be alone against, say, 7 tanks. So you don't necessarily want to do that. So now the T-32 is right here. So I want to turn myself to face him because I think he may be coming around. And I'm basically the last line of defense. So I'm just going to wait for him. We're playing the waiting game. I see when 2244 reveals himself. And he very possibly sees me. Oh, no, he can't because my 6th sense didn't go off. I keep forgetting I have that. It's such a handy thing to have.
Enemy armor is destroyed.
So I lay into him. I think he knew he was spotted. So now I'm going to move back. I try to aim in. I see a shot, and I wasn't paying attention to that IS-6 coming up. I gotta be honest, that was a weird avenue of approach for him, but my fault for not paying attention. So you noticed our tanks that went up the right side of this hill have suicided. If you notice, looking on the map, basically what you have here is you have two angles right here that are very extreme. It's about 90 degrees between these two angles, as opposed to here, if they went down the 1 and 2 line, 1 and 2 line here, it's very less extreme of an angle, and you pretty much have the front of your tank aiming at them. Where here, you're going to have your side facing at one of these two angles. So I don't think it's a great idea that they did that, but it's too late. They're already gone. Now I just got to make sure that AC-48 stays alive. Fortunately, he's one of our bigger guns. 73 health left. Not looking good. So I am firing APCR now. I want to make these shots count. So I want to take him out. Unfortunately, not necessarily a low roll. Actually, no, that was a low roll. That was a very low roll. You know, it's an IS-6, even with 258 millimeters penetration. Gonna bounce occasionally. So now I'm spotted. The T-29's still up there. So I want to pull back a little bit. AC almost got him. So I think I can save him. And I take out the IS-6, but the Centurion gets the kill on our 48. I have to avenge him. Done and done. Kill number 4, 2,400 damage. So now our KV-1S is moving up, our AT-7's moving up. Our IS-6 is behind both of them, which is, I don't know why. I mean, I see what he was doing in the back with the T-32, but And now look at them, they're all going straight by where the IS-3 and the T-29 were last spotted. And I don't know whether or not the IS-3 went back to base. I don't know if he's on top of the hill. I don't know if he's behind the hill or behind those houses. But the T-29 I would definitely assume is still on that hill. And if they go straight past him, he's going to have rear shots on all of them. The IS-6 only has a couple shots left in him for the T-29. IS-3 could probably kill him. Our low was on nothing, and now he's dead because he went up against the IS-3, and something tried to shoot at me from the side. And judging from what's on the map, the IS-3 and the T-29, it had to be the Jagdpanzer IV or the VK-3601. The 3601 I know wasn't a good player, so I'm not worried about him. I believe the Jagdpanzer also wasn't a good player. In any case, they're both tier 6s, so even if they were, I'm not worried about them. What I am worried about is these tier 8s. So I want to keep pushing at these.
Penetration.
So there's the shot I needed. One more. One more, baby. Gotcha, bitch. Alright, so now this is evened up. 2 tier 7 tank destroyers against a tier 6 tank destroyer and tier 6... tier 6 medium. And their IS-3 is cursing me. He deserves it. So I'm trying to hug the outside of the map because the Jagdpanzer IV is still spotted in their base, and I have no way of knowing whether or not he's still there or it was the 3601H that shot at me. But the Jagdpanzer IV is not idle, I know that. But the 3601H clearly isn't as well because he has a kill. So, but he was never spotted, so I have no idea where he's at. So now it's 4 minutes left. Not really sure where they're at. I could go hunting for them. But I'm kind of taking a chance here. I want to head towards their cap and see if they'll come out and get me. Let's speed this up a little bit here. So I'm hoping I can sit here with my camo on the tank, camo on the crew skill, camo nets, and hopefully I'll be out of range for them to spot me if they do come up and I can spot them first. But they're looking to not get killed and just give us the win. So I missed my top gun by 1 tank. I was hoping that they would come for me. But, oh, and there they go. They are coming for me. So he resets me, and both of us put 1 round into him. I got him tracked. And he's taking cover behind the building. The 3601H is capping. So now I know that the Jagdpanzer IV is by himself. So I'm going to take down that building, because I know he's behind it. And there he's spotted. We got him. It's over. And there's my top gun. Game, set, match. So now for a little post-game analysis. We can see that I got 3,500 for a ×2, 48,000 credits, and top gun. Let's sort this out. Okay, so our tier 8 AC-48 got slightly more damage than me, about 200. But for a tier 8 tank destroyer that's fully upgraded, he should have, that's, but I mean, look at some of the damage that some of the other people did. Tiger 2, who you saw at the end, he was bitching about stop camping and yada yada yada. I didn't say anything while the replay was going on, but he was doing that, and he did half of what I did, and I'm a tier below him, and I don't have the top gun. Well, I did get top gun, but I don't have the fully upgraded T25 or AT rather. And they didn't do horrible. Their Centurion and the IS-3 did enough. IS-3 nearly got top gun if it wasn't for me. He did 2,800 damage. And if it wasn't for me, it would have been reversed. He probably might have gotten 7 kills and maybe nearly 4,000 damage. I took him out fairly. About 4,000. So that is what it is. Let's just move on. 26 fired, 23 hits, 19 penetration. Not bad. As I said, there's the T29, for example. The front of his tank can easily bounce my AP rounds. And I fire a lot anyway. I mean, I carry enough that I'm not worried about it. But once I loaded up those APCRs, the 258 millimeters of penetration was enough. 240 or 641 spotting damage. I did run a loss because I did fire quite a few premium rounds. But 1767 for a ×1. So all in all, not bad. Let's get into the next one. So finally, our next match. This one's a Tier 9 match, Arctic region. They have one more Tier 8 than we do, and only 5 Tier 7s. We have an extra Tier 7 on our team. And I'm showing this match because I want to prove to you, when I said that you didn't need the Top Gun on this tank to grind all the way to the T28, I want to prove to you what I meant by that. Among other reasons. So on Arctic region, this is a spot that I like to go to, especially on tanks that have very good accuracy, or at least decent accuracy. I usually come up here with tanks that have a decent view range as well. And I'm realizing as I get up here that I don't have binocs or optics or anything on this tank to give me a view range good enough to spot anything over there. So that's unfortunate. But if we get tanks that decide to move up far enough, they might spot for me, and then I can just shoot at whatever they spot. But our T-71 with his tail between its legs already is just going the other way. Okay, I guess. Yeah. So our IS is moving around the left side of that rock formation. Horrible place to be. I mean, it's better for our team than it is for theirs. But if Artie is up in that A0 area, they can easily nail him. So not a great spot. And the higher up he gets, the less support we can give him. Basically because the more enemy tanks can shoot at him. But at this point, I'm on my phone because I'm realizing that I can't spot anything and nobody on my team has moved up. But I hear the T-44s from behind me shoot. So now I'm realizing, oh shit, there's a stock Tiger over there. So I want to get some of that action. Put a round down. The round disappears, which means I hit him. I don't know if it penetrated. My sixth sense goes off, so I want to get out of here. And that one hits me. And I do want to stop here for a second. I mean, that one hit me in the mantlet, which, you know, that's fine. That would have hit a couple of millimeters to the right. That would have went straight through. And the reason for that is this doesn't have phenomenal armor. It's about 112-ish, 116-ish, somewhere in that range of armor on the front. And that sloping is just not enough. You know, weak spots all over it. This thing is so easily penetrated by every tank in its tier even. You're talking about like Yag Panthers, for example, with 200 millimeters of penetration. Fellow AT, can't think of it. That's what happens from years and years of drug abuse, alcohol abuse. More alcohol abuse than drug abuse. Anyway, fellow T25-2s with the 200 millimeters, Yag Panthers with 200 millimeters in such penetration. It's just not enough armor for you to want to brawl. That's why I stress camo on this tank more than anything else, because you want to sit at range and you want to put your accuracy to use. So I put another blind fire into the T29 or T69. Could have hit. I have no way of knowing that right now. And I'm getting frustrated with this T44 because he shouldn't be up here. He's rubbing me, rubbing against me, blocking me. He's just doing all sorts of bad things.
Penetration.
I take a shot at the T71. I know he can't hit me, or see me rather, because his commander's cupola is behind the rock. And I just heard metal rub against me. And I know what I'm about to see. Yep, he's blocking me in. This is the kind of echelon of player that I got to deal with. So he's just went from frustrating me to frustrating me just a little bit more. I'm trying to push him back because I want to create some space for me, because if I need to back down because I'm spotted, I'm basically going to get hit because I have nowhere to go. So I think he's trying to block me, so I want to try and create some space again, but he moves the other way. So I move back out. He's just frustrating the crap out of me. And there it is, our T-34. He's on, you know, I'm not the only one that sees this. There's other people in the match. The T-34 happened to die later. He notices it as well. So anyway, I put one into the IS. He's easy tank to penetrate. The IS is just a KV-1S at tier 7. He gets more health, and that's about it. A very disappointing tank. I free XP'd through mine and got the IS-3 when the IS-3 was 30% off. I barely play my IS-3, play it stock, pretty much. So I don't do too well in that tank, but I still have more fun in that than I did the IS. So we can see they're beaconing the right side of the map. They clearly have more tanks than we do. I mean, we have a Tiger P over there against some tanks like the Super Persian, the Optic 704, the IS-8. Artie is just ahead of the pack. That's a great spot for him to be. Put one on the move on the T-43. These do have this gun does have a very slow moving round. So as I said before with the Jackson, you kind of need to anticipate where the enemy is going to be. But it's, you know, it's fast enough. So I took a shot there hoping it would arc over the hill. Because it does that occasionally. You know, it wasn't a shot I was expecting to go in, but it was worth a shot. So I saw the IS was on the map, but I couldn't see him, so I moved up a little bit to try and get him into my view range. Oh, here we go, the T-71's moving up on me, which I cannot allow.
Enemy armor is destroyed.
You cannot die.
Spotted, time to move back. But now I see the enemy tanks are pushed around the bend of that corner. So now's a good time to move back and support them. Because I couldn't do that until they move back and to a point where the enemy can come around that corner. So I want to put one in the cheek of the Super Persian. Unfortunately, it hits the spaced armor directly. So now I'm loading up APCR for the IS-6. And here he comes. And right over top of him. It's okay, we got time. He's not that fast.
Penetration.
There's one. Let's go for two.
Enemy is hit.
There's two. And there's the T-44. So I want to put one into him, but I want to wait for that IS-6 to come around. So I save my round. The IS-6 doesn't move though. And the T-44, I don't know if he's moved back or moved forward. No way of knowing that. I am still not spotted though, which is something.
Penetration.
He is 269 meters out with a nearly direct line of sight on me. He does have trees in my way a little bit, so he can't see me the way I can see him, which is helpful all the
Enemy
time.
is hit.
Here we go. He's gone now. So now I'm going to fire at the KV-3, who's 320 meters out. I'm firing on him, which negates about 95% of my camo. At 320 meters, and he still can't see me. As I said, camo is your best friend in this thing. I'm up to 2,200 damage, and 1 kill. IS-6 finally pulls around. I'm loaded up AP, but
Enemy vehicle
it's
destroyed.
worth taking the shot. I'll wait for that KV-3. And Artie's up on the map. Amazing for you to be there.
Enemy is hit.
And not a great spot for him. The IS is being a cheerleader. Keep it up, T25. Well, Scorpioin? Scorpioin. I couldn't have done it without your inspiration. T-43 comes around this corner, angled and up a slope, so that gives me a bounce, thankfully. It's the only one I'm going to get, though, because that was a lucky bounce. He must have got a low penetration roll. I'm still trying to angle, but I'm not getting it. Fair enough, I was backed up a slope a little bit. He reloads and moves back, so I want to finish him off, but Artie would have got him if it wasn't for me, because Artie nailed that spot. So it's good that we're in unison at least. So I know this IS is moving around on our T-71. I don't know if he's on the road still, or he's going to be moving down to the T-71. But I'm not going to move around because the ISU-152 was also spotted on this side of the map. So here I'm thinking I'm going to get nailed, but he misses entirely. And this is a good spot for me because now he's tracked.
Gotcha.
Beautiful. 4 kills. So I'm thinking at this point the ISU-152's got to be coming around. He's got to be coming around very soon. And if he comes around and nails me, that's it. I'm out of the game. He can one-shot me right now. I see he's moved back, and I got 3 tanks in front of me. The T-71, the T-44, and the IS-2. So I'm going to let them move up. And now I see where he's at, and I'm thinking, oh, this is beautiful. Oh, please let me get up there and kill his ass. Our T-44, who is playing like he's been playing all match, decides he wants to take a shot from the ISU-152. Beautiful idea. And done. Fortunately, by the time I got up there, it was only 7 health. Now for a little post-game analysis. 2142 experience for a ×1, 55,000 credits, and ace tanker. This was a tier 9 match. You don't need the top gun on this tank. I mean, I will point out one thing, that I didn't shoot at any tier 9 tanks. There were only 3. But I did shoot at the IS-6, which, you know, he would have had the same armor as a tier 9, at least the way he was driving anyway. It would have been fair and easy enough for me to penetrate with 258 millimeters of penetration at the side of a tier 9 tank, or even at the front of some of the tier 9 tanks. Let's look at the damage. So, you know, the front of an Object 704, I could have easily penetrated. The Yag Tiger, maybe a little bit harder, but he has the weak spot and the massive lower plate. And if he shows me his side, that's going to be easy enough to do. Who was their third one? Their IS-8. And that might have been the most difficult out of the 3 of them. Just because of the armor that he has and the sloping in the front. But anyway, let's get into the damage. The only person to do more damage than me was our Lorraine 155. So, you know, that's good. I'm not saying that's not good for a Lorraine 155. But for a tier 7 tank destroyer to do better than our tier 9s, you know, our Centurion, he was in a place he shouldn't have been, to be honest. Who else? Our M103, I don't know what the fuck he did. He fired 6 shots, 5 hits, nothing penetrated. Horrifying. Really horrifying. But anyway, I don't want to beat on that too much. I don't want to put other players down. But what I will say is that 4,000 damage in a tier 9 match, it's not impossible to do. So this gun, the second gun on the T25AT, is more than enough. Keep in mind that with the APCR rounds, it has 258 millimeters of penetration. So we see here 27 shots, 23 hits, 20 penetration, totaling 3,900 damage with 5 kills. So more than enough. 10 damage tanks. Didn't get Confederate. Somebody must have done more than that. Clearly. So yeah, I mean 17,000 credit profit, even with the premium shells that I fired, and 2,142 experience and an ace tanker in 10 minutes. So the reason why I showed this replay is for two reasons. For the ace tanker, and because it was a tier 9 match. And I did 4,000 damage. Which, as I pointed out, their Object 704 didn't do that much damage. So it's not impossible to do. Just keep laying down those rounds, stay in cover, stay in concealment. That's why you train up camo on the crew. That's why you train up, you put camo on the tank. That's why you put camo nets on the tank. It all adds up. So, I've said what I wanted to say about this tank. As I said, it's a good tank. I also have a blue efficiency in this tank, similar to the Jackson. It's not as high as what the Jackson has for efficiency, but like I said, I'm not using the top gun, so I don't have as high DPM. But it is a good tank. I don't want to give the impression that it's not. I just won't be keeping it. I'd rather save room in my garage for the T28 and sell this and get money towards the T28. So to each their own, though. If you have the money to spend, then yeah, get an extra garage slot and keep it. It's worth keeping. It's a pretty good tank. It's hard to say whether or not, if I kept it, whether or not I would use the Top Gun or not. It's the only experience I have in this tank, and I've gotten pretty used to the accuracy of the gun. Having .35 accuracy is nice. Not to say that I haven't fired less accurate guns at long range, but it's always better to have the more accurate guns to do that. Even when firing, say, at 150 meters, the differences between that accuracy is whether or not you can fire directly at a weak spot or around a weak spot, if you get my drift. So I could be firing at the commander's cupola of a tank, and am I going to hit it or am I going to hit near it, is basically the difference between that accuracy. So that's something to consider. As I said, it does have higher penetration than the Top Gun, and it does have a higher DPM. So it's up to you. I just know that it's kind of an irrelevant question for me because I don't want to keep the tank. I just want to get my crew out of this, put it in the T28, so I can have all the camo and the Sixth Sense, the Deadeye, and the safe stowage on the T28. And I want to have all the extra credits for the T28. That's pretty much where I'm going with it. So it doesn't really matter to me which one I think is better. I just know that the second gun is more than capable of grinding towards the T28. So I think I've said everything I need to say. I don't want to beat on it too much. The last thing I will say about it is, as I've said before, I do compare the two lines side by side between, say, the Hellcat and the Jackson, the T25-2 to the T25AT, and I'll compare the T28 prototype to the T28, the T95 to the T30, and so on and so forth to the two remaining Tier 10s. But really what it comes down to is the Tier 10 tanks. Maybe even the Tier 9s, because to be honest, I like playing my Tier 9s way more than I like my Tier 10s. So, arguably speaking, the only two tiers that matter are 9 and 10. You really shouldn't be playing a tank any lower than 9 and 10 just to play that tank. I mean, if you have a bunch of Tier 10s already, then, do whatever you want. If you don't want to play Clan Wars, then do whatever you want. If you don't want Tier 10s, then do whatever you want. But for me, it's about getting the Tier 10 tank. So I'm not going to play the Hellcat over the Jackson because I want the Hellcat. I'm going to play the Jackson over the Hellcat because I want the T110E3 over the T110E4. That's where I'm going with this. I'm playing the T25AT over the T25-2 because I want the T110E3 over the T110E4. So that's, besides that, as I mentioned, the T25AT I clearly think is so much better than the T25-2. No matter if you use the second gun on the T25AT or the top gun, both guns, it makes the tank so much better than the T25-2. But regardless of that point, as I can't stress it enough because it was lost in my last video, it's about the tank you're grinding to, not the tank you're at. So I don't want to try to beat on that too much. It was lost in my last video, which is why I'm stressing it. Some people didn't understand it. But in any case, if you have anything to say about it, if you disagree with me still, because some people do, and it's, everybody's entitled to their own opinion. I don't expect everybody to agree with me. or everybody to think the same way I do, and that's fine. We're on the internet. Everybody has a right to their own opinion and has a right to voice it, and I actually welcome it. I love hearing people's opinions, and it helps me get perspective on the game, people that watch my channel, all that. So if you have any disagreements, or if you do agree with me, leave me a comment below. If you liked what you saw, give me a thumbs up. And if you haven't subscribed yet, think about subscribing. I got lots of videos up. You can check out my Jackson video that I put up before this, which is the tier 6 right before it. I got videos from my American mediums, got tons of those. Lots of good content on the way. So yeah, think about subscribing. But until next time, you guys take it easy.